You can see me okay. I'm Surin Maisikrot, Vice President for Global Engagement and Faculty Development. I'd just like to, first of all, thank you, Dr. Gim. Am I saying right, correctly?
Yeah, it's okay, Guillaume.
Yum, okay. Which is William in English, I understand. Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. And but before we start, I just like to mention to the Kim and the rest, the French team there, which is that we are recording this, so hopefully it's okay, because we would like to disseminate this information as widely as possible, because there are only a few people attending via Zoom today, but we'd like to, because this is going to be a very useful information, so we'd like to get this posted on the website of our Center for International Affairs, so going to be recorded, and then so that more people can have access to it. So is that agreeable?
Yes. No problem. My pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you. Just to open this, we thought that it's very important that we maintain a very close relationship with the French embassy, the French education people through the Bangkok office, because we have had a very long many years of relationship, many years of cooperation, particularly in the area of technology. Our school in informatics has been having a good cooperation with the French institutions for some time, and of course, many academics here at Untitled University have been involved through French institutions, through French academics. For example, the Erasmus through the Erasmus arrangement, so Montes, for example, so a French team has been working with Untitled University people, along with other people in the region, in Vietnam, for example. So this is very extremely important that we maintain close contact, and we'd like to make sure that information we receive from French embassy through the attaché, through the office of the Scientific and Higher Education Corporation at the French embassy would certainly be disseminated and be shared as widely as possible. So that is the main thing. Of course, the head of Campus France has been here before, and we have met. Many of you guys have come down to Nakhon Si Thammarat several times before in the past. But under these situations of having pandemic preventing us from traveling, but I think it's still very important to continue on. So that is the main from my end. So I just want to a couple of things that I would like to mention at this point. Yeah. So that's from me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice President Kun Surin. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for arranging this session. And now we're getting used to this situation of being like remote. And so that's also the good part of it, because we can, yes, we are very happy that we can have multiple occasions, not only today, but eventually to broadcast or to put it on the website. So first, again, I would like to thank you also for hosting a member of our team before on your campus. And the situation today is quite I think we need to get used to it. But for us, like higher education, the promotion of a bilateral relationship with France and Thailand is very important. And we would like really to maintain, or at least to maintain, or eventually to extend to the different types of collaboration involving higher education establishments in France and in Thailand. That's the priority actually of our embassy. Just like to talk on behalf of the ambassador, but the ambassador has just arrived in Thailand with, of course, strong support to this bilateral relationship and also regional perspective for collaboration. So I just within a few words, maybe I'd like to say that we are happy, like we have a couple of people, including like alumni, as I understand, in computer sciences from Vailelak University. And so this can be a starting point to extend to students, but also we have bilateral programs for young researchers, but also for teams, like mobility schemes actually is the largest part of our budget for cooperation between France and Thailand. So that's why I think, if you allow me to talk a little bit about the different program that can be addressed to the different communities and profile of academic staff and students, of course. Just to mention before that the mobility scheme, active ones, they are really from master degree and above. So this is really for people, Thai citizens, sorry, to go to France to pursue their study or for collaborating in research with laboratories in France. But it can really include the people from master to PhD, young staff, and also senior researcher from both sides. So, and this scheme, these different schemes, they have been created like more than 10 years ago already. So actually, I have to say that we are quite lucky to have a strong support from both ministries, French Ministry of Higher Education, Foreign Affairs, but also from the Thai side. So the way we work with Thailand is to elaborate like joint programs, joint schemes. And that's a very important actually issue here. And so we also encourage very much double diplomas and initiatives such as like mobility schemes in the frame of internship or diploma, right, between the two countries. So I don't know if we can share the screen.
Can we? Maybe, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Right.
Okay. So maybe I should introduce that we are 5 people in the room. So including our Campus France with Kun Polawat and Kun Benjamin. Actually, he's a successor of Pierre. I think that Pierre, like 1 or 2 years ago, came to your campus. So he's a new Pierre, I would say. So these are the 2 people in the contact point for Campus France. And luckily, we all work in the same building at the embassy. And so, we have also Kun Wonpen and Kun Gift. And myself, we are also, and Lisa, but Lisa, she's here on the paper, as you can see on the presentation, but not physically with us. But we are a team, just to tell you that we are a team and we closely work on this relationship for higher education and promotion of higher education in France for Campus France, and also articulate the different programs and schemes for us. So why France actually can be attractive for research? As you may know, I don't know who is online right now. So there's a raised hand. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not sure, but Chirapon.
Okay. Sorry, we can see a rising hand from Kun Jirapon. Does it mean that he wants to speak or she wants to speak?
Right. We have Professor David Harding, the Deputy Director of Center for International Affairs. He's also one of the top researchers at Vailelak University there. And then we have here officers from Dr. Chanya, of course, Dr. Chanya, the head of the director of the Center for International Affairs, and herself actually from the School of Informatics. Oh, I'm sorry, School of Management, working on logistics and research. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I'm from the School of Science, and in fact, I have had money from the French government through the Franco-Thai Mobility Grant. So I already collaborate and work with the University of Bordeaux, with the CNRS there, and also the University of Rennes. Eric Collet is his name, and in fact, Guillaume Chastanet at CNRS in Bordeaux are two of the contacts. So we are already working with teams in France.
Okay. So maybe I won't go too much into the details because we have if we can have a lively exchange, I think it's very good because based on the people attending this session, then of course you are more or less well aware of the French panorama for research, which counts actually is significantly count for R&D. I mean, in the priority of the government that has launched new reform recently. So there will be maybe some slight change in terms of budget and R&D investment, but basically what I want to say here is that it can be very attractive if you look at the details and the specificity of France, where you have the coexistence of universities, you have also engineering schools, you have also research centers, you have mixed laboratories. So this can be quite confusing, I have to say, or not necessarily quite specific, I would say, to understand where the researchers are in France, what are their affiliations. But basically, we have like large, like CNRS research centers, national research centers, quite comprehensive. But we also have like very large research centers and agencies in certain topics. And some of them, they are also located here in Thailand, namely for let's say, development and ODD, I would say, SDG, sorry, Sustainable Development for IRD, or for agriculture for CIRAD, and other types of institutions. So these can be fully located, of course, in France, but other institutions and agencies, they can be located in the region. For CNRS, you have a delegation in Singapore, for example. So there's quite an active research in France, but the system and the structure is quite different than in Thailand. So research is at universities, but also in research centers, both in private or semi-private or fully public budget-wise. I mean, supported by the Ministry of Higher Education. So that's why we have large universities, quite similar numbers with Thailand, and also clusters of universities together with schools and higher education, quite specialized. I'd just like to mention here that there's, of course, business schools, not necessarily located at universities, and some of them are very well known. But if you look straight to the QS ranking, you might be surprised that it's not fully fit with the way that it's ranked at the international scene. But so that's why it requires a lot of curiosity to find and to locate the good partner for your university, your faculty, or the good researcher, which can be located in these different structures, different agencies, different universities. Anyway, so that's a very important, actually, topic, research supported by the ministry, and yeah, as you can see the figures, it's in France we consider like 2.3% of GDP, and if you just separate that into public and private, it's about 1/3 for public and 2/3 for private, right? Which is, I think, quite similar. I mean, the share with a Thai distribution of research and development. So then I don't know. Oops, it's like that. Yes. Then after on this slide, just some information of how the research bodies actually play a role in facilitating research. So you have both, as I said, universities and research agencies or research bodies, research centers. So you have two types of status. If you collaborate with a researcher, he might be a professor at university, separating his time between like teaching half of the time and research half of the time. But if you go to Institut Pasteur, or if you go to INRAE or INRA or INRIA, I believe you know INRIA in computer sciences, you might find a lot of full-time researchers. So that can be a different objectives in collaboration for your university to get closer to the research organization. And but doctoral degree is also very important, as you can see. Diploma to be supported by the government can be either fully public or private. And as you can see on this slide, there's more than 40% of the doctoral candidates are not actually from France, which actually give or say something about the attractivity of France in having a good conditions for research to pursue studies for doctoral degree. And doctoral degree is quite flexible in the way that if you are a student, you can start your PhD here and spend 1 year for your PhD in France and come back to Thailand. And so we strongly encourage, of course, this kind of sandwich program in the future. And so that's just an example, which actually already is in place with some universities in Thailand. I don't know if it's the case with Wailalak, but I don't have this information with me. Then you also have, of course, clusters with different, like very strong research centers, but connected to industries, SMEs, or startups, right? You may have heard about Saclay, for example, in the southern part of Paris. You have in Toulouse, of course, some important activities on aerospace and engineering in general, and so on and so forth. So I won't go into the details again, but as you can see, that research is quite diverse. The possibility of collaboration is quite diverse and not necessarily between academics only. That's my main message here. And so what do we do in Thailand is, of course, we try to offer some services to people who might be willing to go to abroad and eventually France or in Europe. And so that's the role, of course, of Campus France to advise. And maybe I will just give maybe the floor to Benjamin to tell you more about Campus France. Benjamin and Ba, as you understand, Kun Polawat, they are in charge of Campus France here.
Yes, Sawadee Krap. Thank you for hosting us, and thank you, Vice President Dr. Sorin. So Campus France is a public organization which is established to inform and give some guidance for Thai students in Thailand. And we are working, collaborating with the French Embassy for like the guidance of the scholarship. So we can provide some information. If you like our Facebook page, Campus France Thailand, you can follow our activities, such as we are doing a lot of video to promote the studies in France, such as studying social science, pure science, etc. We are providing also information to apply for the Franco-Thai Scholarship, which is going to end up on the 19th of February 19th. Yes, thank you.
Maybe I will add one thing is once a year, Campus France is also participating to the international fair, student fair, organized in Bangkok. So not last year because of COVID, but for the last few years. That's another opportunity to meet with higher establishment from France, because it's OCSC, organized by OCSC, as you know, this student fair. And just an example, like 2 years ago, we had like 24 different establishments for France for a few days in Bangkok. So it really strongly invite you to write down in your agenda if it's organized this year physically. But there's multiple occasions to meet with with establishments in France. And that's good for your student, I believe. That's also good for academic staff. That's also good for international affairs to be there. We are happy about this. And that's also good for us if you have some demand and if we can also introduce your establishment to your counterpart in France. So that's also organized by Campus France. And apart from the different activities, of course, such as today's or seminars, webinars on different topics all along the year. Mm-hmm. So, but in terms of schemes, as Benjamin just said, and I briefly introduced before, that we have separated the historical schemes into 3 different ones. And each of them, they are addressed to a category of people. But the third, except the PhD, I believe that David, if you are not Thai, I believe that you have been benefited from the PhD program. So as you can see, that is flexible, but the first 2 programs, they are individual fellowship. Basically, the Franco-Thai Scholarship program is for master and PhD. As Benjamin said, the deadline for submission on the website, dedicated website to apply for this scholarship will be closed within a few days on the 19th of February. So if you have good candidates, I would say that it's not too late, but it's urgent to submit. And but though that can be very diverse in terms of studies, as long as it is a master or PhD. So it's really a bottom-up program in terms of topics. We don't prioritize the different topics. So the first and number 1 actually criteria for us is academic excellence. That's a very important thing. So, and just to illustrate that, it's not only academic excellence, it's also the experience that the people can have or benefit from a few years working in the private sector. So we have like people, they finish their bachelor degree, and then after they wanted to work for a few years, and then they apply to this program to pursue their study in France, in business, for example, in law, in science, any field. And every year we have good candidates, and there are multiple profiles. So it's not only really, again, it's for young people, less than 35 years old. But as long as you have, or you can demonstrate your ability to have a sufficient academic background and also completed by eventually a significant experience, which is in line with your project, then I think you are eligible for this program. And you are a Thai citizen, of course. So maybe Benjamin will go more into the details on this program. So now I will focus on the 2 other programs. So number 2 is a junior research fellowship program. So as you can see, this is for people who have a PhD degree already. So we call it for young researcher, or junior research, let's say, as long as research doesn't start from the PhD. I believe it starts from the master sometime, but it's for, let's say, from 0 to 5 years after the PhD. So example, in Thailand, a lecturer at university, and this program can help them to get a tenure track, a tenure position at university, because within the 5 first years of their career, they can benefit from an international experience, collaborating with a counterpart in France and working on a laboratory from 2 to 6 months. So we have a selection process, of course, for that. We are not the one who evaluate actually the research, content and project of the individuals. We also have the support from the Ministry of Higher Education in France with a peer review process to select, to make a first selection, of course, of the good candidates. And it's, again, open to all fields of studies, from language to hard science, life science, medical science, computer sciences, any kind of subject. But in that case, I believe that it's necessary if the future candidates don't know anything about France, that maybe to take contact with us, and we can help them to locate or to define their or to see how Campus France can help them in the preparation of their project. And so the third program is not an individual fellowship. It's really like a staff exchange, not staff, but I would say team mobility of a team, but it's still a bilateral program. So as David testify here, you can be involved in a project if you are a Thai professor, young professor, if you are even a master or a PhD, then you can be part of a team and you have your counterpart on the other side, for the French side, I would say, French establishment, laboratory. And this program will help you to come to Thailand and to come to France, and the other part will be helped to come to Thailand. And so as you can see on the last line here, the change of success rate for each of the program, second and third one actually, they are quite high. So maybe I go a little more into the details, not too much into details, but so we have, of course, evaluated this program. This program was created, I mean, this sub-program, I would say Junior Research Fellowship, was evaluated 2 years ago and clearly show that it accelerates the career, I mean, research career of young professors at universities. Why? Because by having the opportunity to make a co-publication, international, with sometimes very prestigious laboratories from both sides, then I believe it's quite visible also, and it can help them in accelerating their career. And also it's a starter not only for the individual himself, but for better know know each other. 6 months can be up to 6 months. Sometimes it's not, of course, enough for publication, and most of the time, I believe, but at least that it's a sufficient time to discuss, to develop further programs, elaborate larger programs, not only supported for an individual by Thailand and France, but also apply to other types of programs. And that was the case actually when it has been separated from the PhD. It was to help young researchers to elaborate larger programs. So these different programs, they follow the yearly call. There's a call once a year, and as Benjamin just mentioned before, for the master PhD, it will be closed soon. But for the second program, it's at the end of August. Yes, let's say open call in August. Every year it's more or less the same, and you have like 2 months to apply. So within 2 months, once the call is open, then you might have some good opportunity there to prepare for a mobility next year. So if it's closed on the 25th of October, then it's for project to be started the year after, once we have the budget actually. So it can be February, March. We always advise not before March because of this time of the budget needs to be allocated for us, right? But we have the capacity for our side. We have the capacity, and on average, every year to select 10 to hopefully more, 11 or 12 new laureates. So every year, if you count, like there's 30% chance of success. So let's say we have 30 different applications. Out of this number, 10 are selected. So again, how are they selected? So we send all the application to the expertise department in France. It's really like a peer review process. So it's anonymous, and they are evaluated by researchers, by peers in different fields. And then after, we get the feedback from them. And once we get the feedback from them, of course, we will be a part of the selection process there. But every year we have very, very good candidates and they found and they identify every year very good laboratories in France. So that's a one-way mobility, right? There's no reciprocity in the mobility there. It's for individual, again, young researchers to be sent or to be hosted for up to 6 months in France. And I don't know what's the policy in your university, but most of the time the university will continue to support them, pay the salary of these young researchers. So during their stay in France, they are like free of charge for courses, and then they are fully engaged into their research in the laboratory, host laboratory. So it's quite successful, I think, this program. And just for the figures, like 10 are selected out of 30, more or less, right? It's quite selective because they are all very good, but it's on average what we have from the last few years. And the last one, so as I said, the last one is a slightly different objective here, because it's also a joint program. So we work closely with the Ministry of Higher Education and Science Research Innovation here, together with universities. So for founding this program, actually you have more or less 50% of the budget which come from France, and the reciprocity for the Thai side, but with two founders, universities and the ministry. This project has been launched also 10 years ago. I mean, in that format, I would say. As you can see on this slide, what this scheme actually will really help for mobility. So, including allowance for the stay in France or in Thailand, flight tickets, visa and stuff, you know. But the idea here is to support or to make happen. I mean, to create the condition for the people to meet, either in France or in Thailand, and it's a 2 years program. So once you have applied, or once you have a project in mind with a team of 2 or 3 people in Thailand, and you have also another team in France, then you will both supply your project. Of course, it's a research project here, on 2 platforms, one in Thailand, one in France, and it will be equally evaluated in both countries. So it will be evaluated by evaluators from Thailand, in Thailand, and also for France, it follows the same process. So there's, and once it is selected, then it's founded for 1 year and a second year, actually. Between the first and the second year, there's no selection. It's just we have a yearly budget, but we need to make sure that the project was okay for the first year, and it will continue for 2 years. So this is a project that once you imagine such a project, then it's to write a project for the next 2 years with your partner in France. But to elaborate a team from both sides, and with actually a reciprocity or co-beneficial, aspect of research. That's very important, because the evaluation process, as I said, it's a peer review process, and then after we will combine these 2 evaluations and look at the different complementarities from both sides, how this project can be bothly supported, how it is evaluated from both sides. And so, of course, if the project is not balanced in terms of objectives or co-beneficial aspect, if it's not evident, if it's not clear, then it will be not necessarily supported, right? So that's a very important point, is to discuss closely with your counterpart in France to elaborate the project together and to submit exactly the same project on the 2 platforms, one here and one in France. It's Campus France in Paris. They manage this platform for submission. So the call of, so every year open on May, and again, you have like 2 months to supply a project. And if you remember the first figures on the success rate, of course, it's an average. So there's no, standard deviation. So which means, I think for scientists, it's a problem, but it can go from, let's say, 20 to 40% chance of success, depending, of course, of the number of projects which has been submitted to the platform. But let's say, like, every year we support 10 new projects, and so right now there's 20 or a little bit more projects founded because it's a 2 years project. So that's the capacity we have today to support and continue to support these different schemes. That's extremely important for us. We have, I think, quite good projects for the last few years. Again, it's quite multidisciplinary. Of course, if you look at the facts and the figures, we will see that there's some topics, like major topics, but it's open to any topics. So if you have a good project, actually, that's the most important. And if you have a good discussion with your counterpart, I think that's the most important. And just last but not least, I think it's important also to include in such projects young researchers. I mean, master or students, PhD, and not necessarily only seniors. I can just, on behalf of my ministry, I would say that's a very crucial point here, like to support. So the idea of creating this project, which has been actually implemented in 70 different countries around the world, so that's a very strong scheme for France. This actually the idea was to trigger, it's a kind of seed money to trigger new activities together between two countries, France and Thailand here. So that's a very important part, like how you include young researchers. So if you have double degrees, if you have co-supervised PhD degrees, then I think it really makes sense, if it's possible, of course, to think about applying to this program with a team and with some work in both countries, and how to demonstrate how this scheme will help you, or both sides, to initiate their program, or eventually to reinforce their collaboration, right? So that's, if it's your situation, for example, in WILELAC, in computer sciences and other topics, then you have in mind some collaboration with some laboratories in France. Please share with your counterpart, and I think you have time to elaborate a program for next year. So once it has been accepted, then it's for the project to be started the year after, right? So I don't know. I mean, I was very long, but just to summarize here, that you can see the distribution of the 3 programs along 1 year, and it's more or less always the same. Starting, where is February? Yeah, it's behind the screen. Sorry, but February on the right side of the slide, it's the deadline for submission for master PhD program, and then after we continue open call before June, let's say, for 2 months, and then after open call for fellowship. So they are distributed along the year, right? So of course the combination of program is of course something that is also, I think, important to consider to apply to different programs. As if you have students, if you have teams, then you can apply to multiple programs, right, at the same time. And if you also add like the possibility of having sandwich programs, sandwich PhDs, or yeah, that really makes sense. So just to finish with this, as you can see, that this is to initiate and reinforce collaboration, these different schemes. And the way to apply, especially for PhD, is to demonstrate, I would say, as a researcher, how you will make it happen, right? So I will finish with that, and thank you very much for your attention. I think to go into more details, we have more time, and if you have any questions, then please ask. Oops.
No questions from me. Just to say to everybody and anybody who is listening, as somebody who has received a Franco Thai mobility grants, everything that Guillaume has just said is absolutely correct. The the grant is very generous. It absolutely has helped us in terms of connecting, more effectively with France. We had a sort of piecemeal collaboration prior to that, and and the Franco-Thai really helped cement that. From the work that we did while we were in France, we've published some, very nice quality publications. A paper just came out about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and that was based on a piece of software that we co-wrote with our French partners, that is now available for the research community and so on to use, and that's been very well received and so on by the community, and many people are using it. I get emails probably about once a week from people asking about this, that, and the other in relation to to the software, and we're continuing to do other work with the team in France, and we've been introduced by the team in France to other researchers and other universities in the country. So it has absolutely helped cement further connections between our group and the group in France. And interestingly, while I was there, I gave a talk, and as Guillaume mentioned, the place where we were was a CRS funded research center, but next door is the University of Bordeaux, and a researcher from the University of Bordeaux came to the talk, and again, because of that, we're now doing further collaborative work with him as well, and papers will come out on the topics that we're exploring together. So I would definitely encourage people to apply for the money. I can't apply myself because I'm not a Thai national, as Guillaume correctly assumed. But I think that is if I could change the program, that's an area where I would change it to simply be a researcher who is working within the Thai university setting. But as I understand it, that's a requirement from the Thai side, not from the French side. But if Guillaume, you could, relay that to whoever is in charge of these matters, that would be helpful.
Yeah. I don't want to talk on behalf of the others, but there's multiple ways. And thank you for your remarks, and thank you for having this confirmation that this program is correctly addressed to the demand, I would say. But for involving a non-Thai national in this program, it's possible actually, as long as you are not a PI, but it's not necessarily possible to be covered, to be supported, like if you are not, I believe, right?
If you have to be the PI. If the PI, you must be a Thai national.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
but again, as you say, in this instance, it didn't matter too much. We had other people in the university, but it just would have helped.
Yeah. For French, actually, the important thing is the affiliation for the PI, which affiliation, and then after, as long as you have a team, you can also multiply the source again of finding. But I agree that it's bilateral, perspective here, and giving the possibility to Thai to come to France for some time. And maybe I just want to mention also that there's other schemes. We are not in charge of these schemes, but they can contribute to the mobility to France for the university staff and students. We contribute to the RGG program, which is, I would say, the Thai equivalent program to the Franco-Thai scholarship program, right? now managed by the NRCT. And but there's also, as it was mentioned before by Vice President Kunsurin, Erasmus program that can be also another perspective for the students to spend time in different countries in Europe. Of course, with pandemic, it's not easy right now to apply, but I believe that's another bi-regional program that has also some advantages to think about, and to apply to larger programs for research as well. But there's also FL program. Last year, I think there were 2 laureates from Thailand. It's a highly selective program, and it's for the university, French university. They actually select the students to give this scholarship to. So that's another possibility, but highly selective and not necessarily bilateral, not bilateral actually. So the competition is high. It's a global competition, right? So, but if you have a good student, a Thai student in France, in universities, then he can apply and it's possible. We had like 2 years ago, 1 year ago, I think. And there's also, of course, institutions or universities located in France. They may have some program and some support to investigate, but also institution here in Thailand. They also have mobility schemes. IRD, for example, they have different schemes. So I invite you to consult, to look at their website also, of course. And it also, I want to say, and maybe to say something about that, like how to combine actually the different possibilities of funding for mobility. That's a question. If you have some ideas, if you have some support, if your faculty, for example, would like to contribute, then it's very much welcome. And it can be also a possibility to build up, a scholarship, full scholarship, because we can contribute sometimes depending on it's quite flexible, but we may also look at the different possibilities for constructing a full scholarship together, right? To receive some support from universities here in Thailand and to complete or to support from the scholarship program here, the Franco-Thai scholarship. So I think that, that's a need, I would say for us, is to discuss with your university your perspective in constructing this scholarship. That can be also another, it's not the topic of the day, sure, but just to launch the idea that we would be very much interesting to know if you have such a perspective of elaborating like co-constructed scholarship. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so just to complete about the Franco-Thai scholarship, the Franco-Thai scholarship is offering a monthly allowance. A monthly allowance, a round trip ticket, and also like the social protection and some advantages from the French government, such as the help to find a house, like the cruise, the help to get information and to prepare the departure in France, and also some guidance from Campus France Paris once the students are in France. Yes. And since 2011, more than 180 students get a degree in France. There was a lot of co-funding with academic research and private sector also. So don't forget, if you want, we can send you some link by mail about our Facebook page to get the information, and also the Franco-Thai scholarship website. And if you can spread it to the student of your university, we can send you a mail with all the link to follow and to share with the students.
So maybe add something for the master PhD scholarship, Franco-Thai. Actually, for this call, we will close now on 19 February. So maybe I just like to add that this scholarship really open for every field of study. I mean, no matter you come from science or from arts or from design, we are really open for every field. And we would like to share up actually for your students. At Varalak University, we have seen some candidate from Varalak more and more every year. Actually, I would like to share up and I would like to ask for your help to like disseminate this information to large public of your university campus as well. Mhm. So if you have any questions about any program now, like master PhD, mobility, research, we invite you to ask if you like.
So largely, with English proficiency would be sufficient, isn't it, to be part of all of the schemes that you have, basically.
Of
The language side of things, hopefully the English is sufficient.
So yes, you don't need to speak French to apply. You can just speak English. It's fine. Like, we also offer like a catalog of programs taught in English, so you can. We will send you all the link, and there's a catalog from Campus France where there's a English program taught in English in France.
Actually, in the research level, I mean, in the fellowship program, in the mobility program, most of the projects are conducted in English for sure. And for the master and PhD, it depends on the program. Actually, if the student choose to study a program taught in English, so just the level of English is sufficient. I mean, the student need to present their test score, TOEFL or IELTS to the university. But actually, for the scholarship, this test score isn't the required document. I mean, they can present us or not. It doesn't matter. So just don't worry about the language proficiency.
Okay. Yes, it's very encouraging to hear all of the schemes, and obviously, just one thing to mention to Dr. Kim and Benjamin and the rest there is the fact that we are very huge now on promoting international research collaboration. So this is because we are aiming to get onto this the Times higher education ranking. So that's part of it, which explains why we are working very hard to promote international research collaboration. So this can't be even more timely, really. But I have to say that we have to work. I would encourage the Center for International Affairs to work very hard to get as many people to be informed of all of these things, and then try to get people to apply to be part of all of these schemes, out of which, of course, then we can, apart from being familiar with the research ecosystem of France, hopefully we can get joint applications and all of that. So it's very encouraging. It's very encouraging. I mean, for us, really, the difficulty is to get people to consider this seriously. And but of course, Prof. David Harding has already can testify to the usefulness of the relationship with the French institutions. So hopefully this time round, we can even promote more participation from Varalak University on top of what has already been done in the past. So let's see how far we can go on this. But it's very encouraging, the fact that of course, we can still learn a lot more from France in terms of research, a very high level research, scientific research, technological research, and all of that. So there are so many areas, even in business area, business studies. Examples of excellence in that area as well. So hopefully we can work towards getting more people to be part of all of these schemes. Okay, Janya, I think that's it. Our huge homework, really. You know, and this is certainly because Prof. Sombat, the president, has put extremely strong emphasis on getting international research collaboration. Concretely, this hopefully in the form this is going to be translated into publications.
Thank you.
May I ask you if you have, like at Bailey University, some perspective to reinforce also the attractivity for foreign students from Europe, for example, like if you have international programs that the students may apply from the other side, you know, like to have exposure to France if there are some students, if they are able to come to Thailand, because that's something that we don't really sometimes see and pay attention to. So it's good for us to know what's your perspective in the future for developing this mobility, attractivity of your university. In what field? Your mic is mute.
Yeah, your mic is muted.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Dr. Chanya. Yeah, speak into this.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so we are promoting the mobility program in various ways in the student exchange, and now we are also working for the transfer credit, and French university are always welcome. I think we are going to contact with Frankfurt and then providing more information about Wildlife University, and also our program that is available in teaching in English language, and also in any program that is open for the student exchange. And that is one of the areas that we are working right now. And also in terms of the postgraduate study, we are offering a scholarship for the PhD and master student as well. So French students are welcome to our university.
Yes. If I may add to that, all our PhD programs are conducted in English. So meaning is research only PhD program that any students from anywhere in the world can be part of. They have to write thesis in English, and of course, in terms of French students, there might be, for example, we have very strong research in tropical medical technology, medicine. I mean, in that tropical diseases. I'm not sure specifically, but certainly, and that is international program where we so European people who might be interested in tropical diseases perhaps can take advantage even in a in a short term period, can take advantage of that. So certainly there are areas that could be made accessible or available to European, to French students. Particularly, I think it would not be much of a difficulty for short-term exchange program, and we would like to very much promote that. And in fact, we are also working on, because of the pandemic more than anything else, I think we have developed our expertise in online deliveries as well, and we are looking into opportunities to perhaps have joint teaching. This is what Dr. Janya has been working on. Perhaps promote joint, classes really, or can people can offer joint subjects across 2 countries, and then get student bodies from both sides or something like that. So that's Dr. Janya is working on that, and hopefully we can get a few takers in no time. So the thing like that, it's certainly, I say it's work in progress, but we are absolutely working towards that. And of course, countries such as France, very much, we can learn a lot from France, absolutely. So we would certainly try to encourage our students to work very hard. In terms of the foreign language, at this point, our focus is on English. Sorry that we don't have French here at our university, but we would like to. But certainly a few French classes will certainly be possible. But absolutely, but I mean, it's hard enough to get people to study English so that they can communicate with many people in the world. So hopefully, what I'm saying is that we are working on several fronts at the same time in order to get this internationalization policy implemented properly at this university. We've been talking about this, but we are working intensely at the moment to come up with concrete programs to add to our internationalization efforts.
I would add to that the university already has a number of its graduate programs that are international, and we have, in fact, international students, at the university. Typically, at the moment, they come from around the region. So we're talking about, Sri Lanka, the Philippines, Indonesia, and so on. We would absolutely be happy to host French students to come to the university if that's what they would like to do. And I think, as VP Surin just mentioned, we are working towards creating sandwich programs where perhaps we can have students spending a year outside the university. We have one such sandwich program already with a university in the UK, and if we could have a similar thing with a university in France, we would very much welcome that. And similarly for the graduate work, my PhD student, for example, she's from Sri Lanka. My postdoc is from Spain. So we already absolutely do have a sort of international presence at the university, although it is small.
May I ask you, you mentioned a tropical disease. I'm not sure, but I think that some of your researchers, they collaborate with IRD and CNRS on tropical disease together with Mahidol University and Vailelak University, I believe. So that's typically in research, but the good conditions for elaborating more into the mobility of students in both sides. So there's IRD here. They are working at the regional scale on tropical disease for infectious disease, actually, and together with a number of universities. And I think, and I have to check that, but I think that Vailelak is a part of it. I'm not sure, sorry, but just to say that there's also researchers based in Thailand from IRD or in the region, and it's good if necessary that we can share the information of these different types of collaboration, including involving some French researchers based here or in Cambodia or in Laos. It might be interesting to know more about Thailand, and if it's not the case, yes, it's not yet the case, sorry. But it's also the interaction we have with the research bodies located in the region. And so they have a perspective, of course, of like having a regional approach in research and programs and mobility. And so this can involve and other forms of cooperation than the bilateral mobility to France, from Thailand to France, and the other way around. And the other thing is about the joint projects. You mentioned the joint projects. I'm just wondering if it's possible for you to share with us a couple of information about these projects. How is it now, or what's your perspective in establishing new projects, like international projects for? I just have in mind entrepreneurship for younger students. If it is like the objective for you to develop like or joint projects between France and Thailand, and developing innovative projects, for example, that may may be very interesting for us to know. And the last point is about the existing collaboration with France. If you could share that with us, like update information about the existing MOU or future MOUs and the type of universities or the perspective for joint programs to be developed in the future. That's something that for us, it's very necessary to have to illustrate also the collaboration between France and Thailand in universities. And that's not only always the case, like it's changing a lot. It's a dynamic process. So we're not necessarily very fully aware of what's happening, you know. And so that's if we can closely work with someone, a contact point at your university, that's something we would like to do, and to elaborate in the future, to have a, let's say, contact point that for the future we can go and further investigate the presence of or the exchange, or let's say organizing a campus tour, organizing a special event on France in your university, having a day for promoting research or mobility to France in your university. That's very, very important for us to know if you can assign someone, or if you can just indicate who would be the one to do that. That's also, of course, contributing to the same objective, to reinforce the collaboration between our both countries. But thank you very much for sharing. I'm sorry, but I have to go. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I have to go too. But I think we have done really well. We have done really well in terms of exchanging information and all of that. Now it's the big work is really ahead of us, really to get to the concrete stuff, and let's see so we can.
Okay, I'll just put one little thing there. So, Guillaume, given that I already have contacts with France and stuff like that, and I, am the deputy director in the Centre for International Affairs, I think it would make sense if I was the contact person, for Campus France, for the university, and you guys can contact me, anytime. I'll just pop my email in the chat.
Yes, thank you.
And so on. And any questions, there you go. I'd be very pleased to answer them. As I say, we really would like to work more with France. It's just a question of trying to get more connections and so on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Thank you. .ac.th